Good day. Today I'm going to review one of my favorite books, a book that took me 4 years to read, but I enjoyed every moment of it. And I do want to give you that warning that if you are going to read this book, it will take a long time. It took me 4 years because I would read a chunk and then I'd put it down, come back to it a month later, pick it up and read some more. So understand that you could read it in a couple months time if you are if you just get down on it. But for me, it was a book that was so enjoyable and so full of thought and philosophy and history that I really felt I was doing. I actually was felt like I was reading it the right way by putting it down and stretching it out over 4 years, to the point where actually after the 4 years it was so uh, I had it was like losing a friend at the end. That this book had been my companion for 4 years, from actually, and I got to redo my math. Could have been 4 years because I started it in eighth grade, and I finished it after being at the age of, I think, 20. So I guess it was 6 years, because I remember where I was when I read it. I was. It's funny that it's a book where I can remember certain places, locations based around moments in the book. I can remember where I was when I read certain moments of the book. And by the way, I haven't said the name of the book. Well, hopefully you clicked on it knowing this is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. And so I bought it in eighth grade, not even knowing at all that there was this musical that had happened to do with it, or that was based on it. So that knowing the musical, I think, would help you understand the story. But just one of the problems that people often have reading this book is that there's so much more going on that sometimes people get dismayed. So, for example, okay, the book starts off with the Bishop of Digne, 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 or however you pronounce it, and it's about 60 pages just about the bishop. Now, if you've seen the musical, you know that the bishop shows up within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the musical. And he's on stage for maybe a minute before he's gone, right? So understand, the musical had him on, he's a minor character, although he's got a major moment. He's really a minor character as far as stage time. But in the book, he takes up 60 pages. Jean Valjean, the main character, doesn't even show up until that page 60, right? And then you go into the deep history of Jean Valjean. And just understand there's so much more going on. There's characters that, if you've seen the musical, you're going to, and you want to read the book, understand you're going to be introduced to different characters. For example, Eponine has a sister in the book. And there's, by the way, we do know who Gavroche's father is. You'll find that out at about page 500 or somewhere in the book. So, in fact, I remember exactly where I was when I read that part. I was in Spanish class, junior year at Pleasant Valley High School. And when I found out who Gavroche's dad was, I just gasped, and I looked up and I turned to my friend behind me, Johnny, who knew the musical, and I said, I just found out who Gavroche's dad is. And I won't tell you who it is. And she gasped too, because she had only seen the musical, but knew the characters. So all these great moments that like the scene where Jean Valjean, where Cosette goes out into the woods to fetch a pail of water from the well in the woods, as they say in the musical. That scene the book actually follows her as she goes out into the woods, and she's this poor little girl. She's tiny and she's so pathetic and puny, and she's terrified of going into the woods at night, as all of us would be, particularly as a young girl or a young kid. And you just it's a beautiful, terrifying scene. You feel for her, at least I did. And then when out of the woods comes Jean Valjean, she doesn't know who he is. She just knows that suddenly she hears a noise and she sees somebody come up in this giant form looming over her, who picks up the bucket for her and carries it for her. And it was so awesome. I loved that. That was one of those moments where I put the bookmark in. I just said, I'm going to stop and just ruminate on that scene. And I can tell you where I was when I read that scene. I was in the back of a car driving home. My friend Lauren Eggert, who was driving me from the bus stop to my house from getting off from school. And, I can tell you where I was when I finished it. I was at Camp Pendola. And when I finished the book, I closed it up and I just kind of put my hand on top as if to say, goodbye, old friend, I'm going to miss you. Understand, I rarely feel that way about books. I don't get that. There are a few books that I can name that have had this effect on me. But Les Miserables is one. And I recommend it to every human being. Things to watch out for, though, if you understand, is there are some adult subjects. There is prostitution in this. There is the results of premarital sex, and then of course there are some really nasty people in this story. Oftentimes the villain is portrayed as listed as Javert, and you hear all, by the way, if you're curious about Javert, if you've seen the musical, this book will give you his background of who his mother was and why he is so obsessed with law and order, right? And where his philosophy comes from. So that should maybe just another thing to entice you to read the book. It is my favorite book, and I recommend it. Watch out for this. Like I said, there are some salacious moments, not moments, but allusions. Nothing is described other than just the indication that we know that there's prostitution. It's not presented in a wonderful way. It's presented in all of its ugliness and the sad situation that comes out of that. So it is a very moral, very in line with Catholic social teaching. And Victor Hugo had a lot to say, and he was trying to say something about society. And for example, when Fantine, when it's discovered that she's had an illegitimate child, and she's fired from her job, and she's seen, and he describes the scene where the people who got her fired and everybody who so despised her felt so proud of themselves as they see her wandering the streets, and they feel like justice has finally been done. And he's really indicting all of us, of any of us who like to see people fall for their sins, and who take a sense of pride. He's really attacking the pride that many Christians have for, well, at least I didn't sin like that woman. So if you read this properly, this is a book that should make you a better person. This is the book that inspired me to be a dad. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get married. I wasn't sure if maybe I was going to be a priest or something. But after reading, when I got to the parts with the little Cosette and reading those parts, particularly the part with the bucket, I said, I want to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad. I want to be a dad as good as Jean Valjean, he is the ultimate image of self-sacrifice, of agape love, or agape, however you want to say it. So recommend it. It's going to take a while. The version I read was 1,400 pages, but I think if you can just be patient and just try to enjoy whatever he's presenting, I think you will find that you will be a better person. You'll know a lot of French history you never even knew you were interested in. So, Les Miserables, recommended for high school. But definitely for high school only. This is not for 5th graders or 6th graders or junior high kids. It is definitely a high school book. Don't read the edited version. Okay, that's a sin. You are a sinner if you read the edited version of Les Miserables. God will strike you down. All right? Or at least I'll be mad at you. All right? Enjoy the book.